Hey everybody, it's Zabel Wolf here, and this week I would like to talk about the stupid loss of life, both in the UK and in America. So, for those of you who have been following the news as of late, last week there was a horrendous killing in the US, costing the lives of 49 innocent people at a club and one mad gunman. Also, only a couple of days ago in the UK, an MP, an extremely loved MP by all accounts from what I can find, was killed by yet another lone gunman. Now, I'm not going to use this to spout on about the stupidity of UK's laws and things like that, because that's not really fair on her. The UK people, they have made their choice and they are living their lives and they're not complaining about it. So, yeah. What I do want to talk about are the conflicting stories coming out of the media over there. So I'm going to start you off with an article, one from a report, a media source that I've never heard of until now, and I've had trouble corroborating it, but it does give a second side to the story, so we're going to start there. Okay, so several of the named witnesses from previous reports have come forward in the UK, saying that they have never said, nor did they ever hear, the mad gunman shouting "Britain first." Now, that's not to say he did not say it in the UK. It just means that either people are scared for their lives, or he didn't say it. I'm unable to confirm either way at this point, so I'm just reporting the news to you. You make your own decisions. There will be links to all the articles I'm going to use below. So, just to read this little bit. A sign in the shop by... Just to read this little bit. A sign in a shop by the spot Joe Cox was killed states the claims that the gunman shouted "Britain first" are untrue. I'm not sure how well you can see that. I can just barely see it on my screen. It isn't that much smaller for you. But it says, "Please note, I did not tackle the gunman and no one shouted Britain first at any time." Now, this is just one guy, Mr. Ahmed Tahir, who has insisted he's not spoken that phrase or told anybody in the media about it. And he fears for his safety after the original claim was made during other reports. Now, we're going to skip down. We're going to go into the comments section here. We're going to cover a few of the comments and then we're going to move on to another report. So, this comment section here, it's small, but this is the part I want to focus on because it's not a heated debate. It is actually a nice conversation back and forth. You can come and read the whole thing, but I'm going to just start with Rooty2, and then I'll read Scott Dean and Alan Arnold, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so Rooty2 said, 3 separate people were reported to have heard Britain first shouted. The only Asian man out of the 3 is getting widespread abuse on the right-wing sites and fears for his safety. Nothing to see here. That would work. If you were the only person of a minority and everybody was telling you that you got it wrong, I'd change my tune. I'm pretty sure you would, and that could be what happened here. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it could be what happened. Next we have, I watched and listened to this whole event unfold on both the BBC News, radio and television, and Sky News. On numerous occasions, eyewitnesses were interviewed. Not a single one of these, approximately 10 in total, mentioned anything about Britain first or put Britain first. In fact, later in the day, when one gentleman was interviewed on camera and asked about this, he categorically denied it. As soon as the Britain first story broke, I searched everywhere for the source and it came from a Remainer MP, Maria Eagle, who has since removed the tweet. For those of you who don't know, Remainers are those who want to stay in the EU, and then you've got Leavers who want to leave the EU. And the referendum is this week. This MP, Jo Cox, who was shot, was a Remainer. So it's pretty much leading into the left narrative that the Leavers are nutcases, which is great for me because I'm Brit and I'm a Leaver. Guess that makes me a nutcase. And then Alan Arnold, Scott Dean. I too was watching the news and there were no mention of Britain first in the Remainiacs. Try again. Alan Arnold says, Scott Dean, I too was watching the news and there were no mention of Britain first. The Remainiacs are desperate to link this to the Brexit campaign. So that we have a nice conversation. Two sides of the argument. You decide. Okay, now this is a different one. This is from the Daily Mail in the UK. Slightly more valid newspaper, but as with any media source, completely and totally biased to their own agenda, and therefore take everything that is read, just like everything else, with a grain of salt. We're not going to watch the video. I am going to zoom in the page so we can read it a bit better. This gas fitter, a Mr. Clark Rothwell, 42, was apparently working close to the scene of yesterday's attack. He said he heard man, you can see what I mean by maybe take it with a grain of salt. They can't actually put things grammatically correct. He said he heard the MP's attacker shout, Britain first, or put Britain first. Okay. Well then, here's my problem with that. How does he know it was the attacker if he was only working close to the scene? Anybody could have been shouting that in that group. There's no saying that there wasn't somebody there who was shouting Britain first. Just who can confirm that the attacker was saying it, not just some guy who was nearby and heard it being shouted before she was killed. So here we go. We're going to read through it. So here we go. We're going to read through it. I've made it smaller so you can actually see it. The gas fitter who witnessed the brutal killing of MP Jo Cox has told how her assailant had shouted Britain first as he shot and repeatedly stabbed the mother of two. Okay, so up in the top here it says that he was working close to the scene of the attack. Now he is a witness. As in, he was there and saw it happen. That's conflicting for me. It's not to say that it's wrong. Again, I'm being entirely unsubjective because I just really want to be a jerk at this point. But that doesn't mean that this is wrong. It just means that whoever wrote this has no idea what they're talking about, or they're trying to paint it in a slightly different picture. And it goes on to say that he's an eyewitness. Right here. Eyewitness Clark Rothwell, 42, who was working near to the murder scene, said the man, named locally as 52-year-old loner and handyman Tommy Mayer, shouted Britain first as he launched the attack on the mother of two, which occurred at around 1 p.m. Well, either he was an eyewitness or he was close to the scene. You can't have both. If you're working, you tend to not be watching other things going on unless you want to not do your job. And the last of these, which we're going to look at, this is from Reason.com. It's a blog. But we're going to read through this because this ties into the next story we're going to talk about a little bit more. I'm not going to pull up as much information about that one because everybody already knows about it. But British Labour Party MP Jo Cox, 41, died after being shot and stabbed on the street by a 52-year-old man. She was known for her activism in support of Syrian refugees. Media outlets quote witnesses saying the man yelled Britain first when he attacked. That pretty much sums it up. Media outlets, they're not quoting him, but media outlets quoted people as saying it, although finding any actual video evidence has become impossible at this point. Leading into the next story, President Barack Obama and Vice President Joe Biden have arrived in Orlando to meet with the families of victims of Sunday's deadly shooting. Shooter Omar Mateen, prior to his rampage, posted on Facebook for America and Russia to stop bombing the Islamic State and promised there would be more attacks from ISIS on the United States. Now, obviously, America has taken these... Now, obviously, America has taken different opinions depending on what side of the fence you're on. The conservatives believe that people should be allowed to carry their guns in more places, as that would have helped with taking down this madman. He probably still would have killed a few people, but had someone been there with a gun who knew how to use it, he probably would have been stopped a lot sooner than the 49 people that he killed. The left, on the other hand, the Democrats, are calling for gun control on cosmetically altered semi-automatic rifles. From here will be termed, as the Democrats call them, assault rifles. Believing that control on those would help bring people under control, would help bring gun crime under control. There really isn't that much evidence of that. They've done this before. It didn't really work because assault rifles, as they call them, are not used in that many crimes in the US. More likely than not, it's a handgun of some kind. Or even a shotgun, which is even easier to get than a rifle. Now, Omar Mateen did manage to pass background checks. He purchased the guns legally, which means that he wasn't being told that he wasn't allowed to have a gun for any reason. This obviously prompted President Barack Obama to opine how he can't put people who are on the no-fly list on the no-gun list. His reasoning being that most of the people on the no-fly list are people who are worried that the America is worried are terrorists and are going to cause problems. That's all well and good, but flying to another country is not a right, whether you believe in God or not. It is not a right that you be able to fly. There are other ways to get around. You could take those. But as far as America is concerned, and its constitution, the reason why it's in there in the constitution, is it is a right to own a gun. And unless you can come up with some extraneous circumstances, you don't have the right to take that right away from people, which is where everybody's getting hung up. And it is causing problems here in the US. Now, one of the things that the Democrats did try to do, I'm not sure if it worked all that well. I do have just this story which I've pulled up about it. One of the things they tried to do was try and get a conversation going over gun control. And they did what's called a filibuster. For those of you not in the UK, not in America, and have no idea what that means, it's essentially what the Houses of Parliament do when they start arguing with each other. It stops the conversation until they get their own way, like a bunch of bratty kids, because apparently nobody cares what they have to say unless they throw a temper tantrum. That's the best analogy I've got. If you got a better one, put it in the comments. But anyway, Senate Democrats have ended a 14-hour filibuster calling for gun control reform after Senator Chris Murphy said he won promises for votes on 2 measures. Well, apparently it worked. He managed to get them to agree to vote. Does that mean that anything's going to change? No, not in the bloody slightest. Other filibusters by Senator Rand Paul in 2015 and Ted Cruz in 2013 helped launch presidential bids but didn't result in substantive concessions in that sense. At least Murphy appears to have notched a victory by earning promises for votes. So, not the first time this has been done. Probably the most successful time this has been done, but not the first time this has been done. Gun control in the US is a contentious argument, one that I have my own belief stance on living in America and being a Brit. I do not believe that gun control is going to change the lay of the land here in the US. The biggest reason being, too many people already have guns. Too many criminals have guns. And while you would be able to get the law-abiding citizens to do as the law says and hand over their guns if you took them away from them, you would not get them away from the criminals because they don't care. They're not going to follow the law. They don't follow the law right now. Why would they follow it any other time? So the outcome will be more innocent people will lose their lives because the criminals will still have guns and the innocent people won't. In the UK, it's an entirely different matter. Guns have never been a prevalent thing. They are starting to gain ground with the criminals. I don't know where they're getting them from, but I'm sure that they're working on trying to fix that hole in the defences right now. But the British people have spoken. I have spoken to many friends and families who believe wholeheartedly that the UK is better without guns. And I'm not going to argue with them. They live there now. I don't. That is their decision. I will stand by their decision. But in the US, don't try and take people's guns away. It's their right according to the Constitution. Whether you believe man wrote that or if it is a God-given right, that is entirely your decision. But it's their right. And you don't have the right to take that away from them. No government member does, because according to the Constitution, that is not given to them to do. They can make these changes, but unless they can amend the Constitution, they have no bounds to actually make these changes, which for some people is going to be classed as a shame. For me, not so much. I do believe America is safer at this point with people who know how to use guns being able to carry their guns. Almost all of the mass shootings have been in places where people have not been allowed to carry guns. The most interesting of the mass shootings that is from recent times was the one on the American Army base, where it turns out on American soil on the American Army base, members of the military were not allowed to carry guns unless they're the MPs. So that meant as soon as a guy walked in with guns, everybody was going to fall, because the people who are trained to use guns safely, properly, correctly, were not allowed to carry guns and could therefore not defend themselves. Yes, an American Army base is a no-gun zone in the US. If you want to stop mass shootings, quit making no-gun zones bigger. You don't have to allow people to carry rifles. To be quite honest, that's probably a bigger deterrent, because you cannot hide a huge-ass rifle. No matter how hard you try, unless you are the size of Arnold Schwarzenegger or The Rock and wearing a bloody long coat, that thing is going to show no matter how hard you try. But at least if they're carrying a gun, madman walks in with a gun, goes to point it at someone, and the people with guns in there will be able to react. Sure, people are still going to get hurt, but a lot less people are going to get hurt if there is someone there who can defend you over nobody being able to defend you and everybody trying to run for cover. That's just my opinion. And that's been the sad state of affairs of the news for the last week. My thoughts go out to the families. They've lost loved ones. Parents have lost children. Children have lost a parent. And it's wasted life, because no real change is going to come out of this. Nobody's going to stop arguing. And these issues are going to happen again and again until we come together as a people and actually work together to stop this. Well, thanks for listening, and ciao for now.